Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Man, what a day. I just realized I have no propane in my grill, so I'm hoping to find a place where I can swap out my propane tank. I hope you have an awesome 4th of July. So I have been teasing this list for 3 months. Ever since the beginning of April, I've been saying, I'm really close, I'm really close, I'm really close. And it'll never be ready. It's like saying, are you ready to be a parent? You're never ready to be a parent. You just need to dive in. And that's how I feel. I've been constantly tinkering with this list. I was tinkering with it this morning going, oh, I should change this. I should tweak this. I've just got to roll it out. I just need to do it. So here's the details. I was looking for a list of the most iconic at the time, most iconic sports cards of all time. And I found a bunch of lists, and one of them was a PWCC Top 100. And it felt like it was like 40% Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant. And I was like, this is a terrible list. Who puts together a list of the 100 most iconic cards that is filled with 3 guys? It makes no sense. They're all basketball. There was a bunch of Mickey Mantle. It was like 30 or 40 people in this list of 100 of the most iconic cards. I'm maybe exaggerating, but not by much. And so I started researching, looking up other lists, and I thought, you know what? I wouldn't want a list of the 100 most iconic baseball cards because a lot of the most iconic cards I can't afford. And that's a really important thing here. And then I thought, what if I had a list with 1 card of each player? So you don't have 12 Michael Jordan cards. You don't have 9 LeBron James cards. You have 1 of each player. So you have 100 GOATs. And then I kept tinkering with it. And then I said, well, there are some cards that are of non-GOATs that I'd love to have, or I have and I find to be really important cards in the hobby. And so I came up with this idea of the 100 cards that I get jealous of when I see. And so I'm terrible with branding. So help me with the name if you can. Right now I have the Attainable Collection of Envy 100. I'm telling you, I'm not good with branding. So, or the ACE 100, Attainable Collection of Envy 100. So what do I mean by attainable? I mean, I tinkered with what this meant. Initially, I thought cards that are under $1,000 because that's really my breaking point is $1,000. And I thought, no, let's do $5,000 where you can get the card for under $5,000. So it's a PSA or SGC Authentic or a 1. You have the card and you have this awesome collection. Even though I don't care about the grade on the vast majority of these cards. I'm going to get into stats of how many of them are expensive here in a little bit. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video explaining how this is. So I did not want recent cards. I didn't want current athletes unless they've been in their league for 10 years. So the newest card is from 2014. I'll let you guess who that is. There's no Luka Doncic. There's no Shohei, even though I think that he could and should be. There's no Juan Soto or Ronald Acuna or I don't know. I'm not going to go through all the people that there aren't in there because it's recent. I do have an honorable mention list at the end of guys that qualified but didn't quite make my list, or cards that didn't quite make my list. So this is a list of all men, 100 cards of men. I have also created a list of top most iconic women's cards. And I worked with Women on Tops on Instagram on that a little bit. She was helpful. And I also worked with Ryan of Breakout Cards on a non-sports card list. I'm not ready for either of those just yet. I'll try not to tinker for too long, but I will start those in some capacity in the near future. Now this list, the 100, I'm going to release one per week over the next 2 years. Is that crazy? Maybe. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun because I hope to learn more about each of these athletes and each of these cards. And the videos will be substantial, I think, where I talk about the athlete, I talk about the card, I talk about the cards of that athlete that didn't quite make it and why, and what you can expect to pay for the card in various grades, what are the highest price it's ever sold for, things like that, that I think will be a lot of fun. And I hope you'll join me and you'll learn more about these players and these cards along with me. Now, after I release the video, whatever day that's going to be, maybe on Mondays or Wednesdays moving forward, probably Thursday next week because I'm not around on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday next week, but once a week, the next morning, I will email a newsletter with all the details of these cards with photos. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, make sure you are at junkwaxhero.com. One thing I try to avoid on the more modern cards, the 2000 and later, no autograph cards are in here. Now, I might talk about upgrades. So in these videos, I might say 1986 Donruss Jose Canseco is super easy to buy. It's like $20 in a PSA 9 or something crazy like that. So consider upgrading to an autographed 1986 Donruss Jose Canseco. And here's the price for that. So that's another thing I'll add into these videos is not only alternatives, and some of these will be really expensive, and I'll talk about cheaper alternatives. There's no TCG. I don't know anything about TCG, didn't want to learn, it does not interest me in the least. If that's your thing, that's fine, that's cool. It's just not for me. So I didn't want to pretend like I can learn about non-sports cards, even though I don't collect them right now. It's of interest to me to have the most iconic non-sports cards and to learn about them, and that's fun for me. TCG just wasn't. Two types of cards I avoided are the sportscaster cards of the late 70s. I don't like them. I mean, I have a few, but actually I have you can't see, is a Joan Benoit Samuelson card, sportscaster card, autographed on my top shelf up there. I have a Yaz one, but they aren't easy to store. And so I'm avoiding those, and there are some rookie cards that are in those sportscaster cards. I'm also avoiding Sports Illustrated for Kids, and I'm going to talk about some guys that didn't make my list that hit the honorable mention because their best cards are unfortunately Sports Illustrated for Kids cards. I love Sports Illustrated for Kids. They're some of my favorite cards, but they are cheap, they're flimsy, they aren't very popular, and so I didn't find them to be a very appealing option for this list specifically. What I'm going to ask you to do is tell me if you think, of course you're going to hate this list. Everybody will get mad about you better have so-and-so higher than this. I hope you're not missing this person. I'm hoping you'll tell me if you would rank somebody higher or lower each week. Of course, you're not going to know who's above them, but just by gut feel, do you think this person is ranked too high, too low, or this card is ranked too high or too low, or would you have chosen a different card? I love those comments, I appreciate them, so I hope you'll join in. Also on this video, I'm hoping you will try to guess my top 5 athletes in order, and then bonus points for the specific cards in order. This is tough, and if you do, I'll give you a shout out either next week or in my newsletter, or both. I also want to include, I love Sports Illustrated, and so I want to talk about when was their first Sports Illustrated cover, what got them there. So these videos, I think, will be meaty. All right, let's talk about honorable mentions. Guys that I really wanted to get in, or cards that I really wanted to get in, and I just couldn't get there with them. 1994 Bumblebee, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is, it's pretty big card, but I couldn't quite get him there as an athlete or as a non-sports card. I've got him as honorable mention. Obviously extremely famous and great. That's another thing I wanted to talk about is all of these players were iconic goats of their time. They were very, very famous people of their time and continue to be famous in most cases. But they were, people that people would talk about around the kitchen table. Everybody knew household names of guys. Another guy I wanted to get to was AJ Foyt. So I scoured best of sports lists. And AJ Foyt was a guy that came up a bunch and didn't have any cards that I found to be worthy of being on here. I'm not a racing guy at all. I've never watched a single race. But there are certain guys that transcend racing and become a household name. And I'm not going to get into the one or two maybe that made it into my list. But AJ Foyt didn't. Usain Bolt. I love track and field. Usain Bolt is one of my all-time favorites. His best card is a 2008 Sports Illustrated for kids. So I had to exclude Usain Bolt. Michael Phelps, the greatest swimmer of all time, one of the greatest Olympians of all time. Couldn't find any good cards for him. His best was 2004 Sports Illustrated for kids. So Michael Phelps doesn't quite make it. Tony Hawk. Man, I wanted to get Tony Hawk in there, but his best card is 1990 Sports Illustrated for kids. And I love rookie cards. So, if you say, well, Tony Hawk has a great 2020 Panini Prism card or whatever, I don't know. That's just not for me. That doesn't fit what I want to do. If I saw that, I would not get envious of your card. And this is my list. So the cards that I look at and say, oh man, I wish I had that card. Lance Armstrong did not make my list. He has his best card is 1992 Impel. Plus, he's got some allegations against him. Kind of a bad guy. Dale Earnhardt Sr. His best card, the one that I could find on him was a 1989 Max. Didn't do it for me. Sam Snead, one of the greatest golfers of all time. Only good card I could find that I really liked a lot, that was kind of a rookie card, was a 1955, I've already forgotten, American Sports Stars or something like that. It's a hand-cut card, extraordinarily low pop card. I think there were 5 or 6 that have been graded by PSA and not very many by SGC. And I mostly talk about PSA on these videos because they're much easier to find sales for. They make it easier, I am really hoping that SGC, the PSA or collectors, does something with SGC similar so they can pull in SGC sales and you can easily scour them for recent sales or sales at any point. But for now it's PSA. PSA's pop report's easier to use as well. So I would love to do more with SGC, and in some cases I will, and you'll see. A couple of iconic cards that do not make the list for various reasons. Both are from 1990 Hoops. The Michael Jordan, it's actually a Sam Vincent card, where Michael Jordan's wearing the number 12. I'm not going to get into that card. It became famous just a few years ago, I think. Not big enough for me. Similarly, 1990 Hoops, Mark Jackson with the Menendez brothers in the background. Didn't get there for me. Next up is the 1963 Topps Pete Rose. Should Pete Rose be in this list? Probably. One of the most iconic athletes of the 20th century, most popular baseball players. But I don't like his rookie card, 1963 Topps, because it's the 4 floating heads. I want one, but it doesn't excite me. I don't get jealous when I see that somebody has it. And he doesn't have any other cards that I found appealing. So Pete Rose doesn't quite make my list. The 1990 Topps, no name on front, Frank Thomas. It's a Frank Thomas rookie card. It's a very important card, iconic card, I guess, but doesn't get there for me for various reasons. It's I don't know. I like it and I want one, but it's not in my top 100. 1981 Panini Greg Louganis, who was an iconic athlete in the 1980s. The diving in the Olympics, hit his head on the diving board. He was ultra famous. couldn't get into my list. So I'm not going to tell you all the sports that are in this list. There are a lot of them. But what I will tell you is that baseball and basketball make up more than 50% of the list. And if you add in football, you're up to almost 2/3 of the list. Baseball, basketball, football make up almost 2/3 of the list. And that leaves a little more than 1/3 for other sports, which is really exciting for me. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to dive into this. By rough count, 81% of them, 81 of them, are rookie cards. 62% are vintage, and I've defined vintage like most vintage collectors do, which is pre-1981 baseball, and I just stuck with that cutoff for all the sports. Pre-1981. 62% vintage. I already own 15 of these cards, again, by rough count. I just skimmed down through. 15% already bought. Now here's the big number that made me go, whoa, that's crazy. I looked up minimum prices to be paid for these in PSA slabs. And so I did what grade you can expect to pay under $5,000, up to what grade. So if it's a PSA 7, it's $4,500. I've got that, and then I also have what a PSA 1 or Authentic would go for. And the minimum price for the 100 cards, the minimum, if you want to buy all 100 of them in a PSA slab, it's going to cost you more than $90,000. It's going to take me decades to get through this list. But don't let that scare you, because that means the average price is $900. 32 of them have a minimum price of under $1,000. 60 of them have an average price, have a minimum price of $500 and under. And another 30 have a minimum price of $100 and under. So these are attainable. For me, like 60 of them are, I could do that in under a decade. It's the other 35, it's the other 40, I guess, or really the 32 that are min price $1,000 more that are going to take me a lot longer. And when I say attainable, I mean, you're talking about grails. It's going to take time to save for each of these. And that's okay. I don't have $5,000 to spend on a card. I wouldn't do that. I can't imagine doing it. But someday, I think I will. It's the $1,000 ones that I'm stretching to right now. I have never spent more than $600 or $700 on a card, but I'm stretching to $1,000. I'm going to get there. And then eventually, when I have, hopefully in my 50s and 60s, when I have more money, be able to stretch to some of these bigger cards. So remember, subscribe to the channel here if you're not already, and subscribe to my newsletter. Junkwaxhero.com. You can watch the video, you can read the newsletter, you can see the photos. I'll have links, I think, to like eBay stuff. I'm not an eBay affiliate. Maybe I'll become one. I don't know. Do I benefit from that somehow? Do I get percentage? I don't know. That's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have any thoughts on the top 5 athletes in here and the top 5 cards that I've chosen within the parameters that I've described, that'd be awesome. Let me know in comments. Thanks for watching. Hope you join along.